Hey guys, before we start the story, please support me by subscribing. Thank you. I'm Abigail, 25, and my life has been a constant fight to be taken seriously. My family always pegged me as the overly emotional one, the girl who exaggerated everything for attention. But that 4th of July, when my chest tightened and my world started to spin, when my dad barked at me to stop pretending as I struggled to breathe, everything shifted. My Aunt Margaret, always quick with a jab, accused me of dodging chores to avoid helping with the barbecue cleanup. Nobody saw it coming when the paramedic checked my vitals and yelled for a gurney, sending the room into chaos. I'd love to hear where you're reading this from. Drop it in the comments. If this hits home, give it a like and follow for more. What happened next flipped my world upside down. Growing up in the Carson household meant one rule above all. Weakness wasn't tolerated. My father, Tom Carson, ran our home like his construction company, strict, no nonsense, with zero patience for complaints. Standing over 6 feet with hands rough as sandpaper and a voice that could cut through a storm, Dad wasn't someone you whined to unless you wanted a lecture on real struggles. From my earliest days, anytime I felt sick or hurt, I got skepticism instead of comfort. At 8, when I fractured my arm falling off the swing set, Dad made me scrub pots before grudgingly driving me to the clinic, convinced I was milking it. The doctor later warned the delay could have caused permanent damage. That pattern stuck with me. My pain was always dismissed, my experiences deemed less real than everyone else's. My mom passed when I was 5, leaving Dad to raise me and my younger sister, Lily, alone. Maybe that's why he was so tough, but it never justified it. Mom had been the softness in our home, the shield against his harsh edges. Without her, Lily and I faced his judgment head-on. Aunt Margaret, Dad's sister, was no better. With her flawless hair and knack for backhanded compliments, she'd show up to every family event with a critique ready. "That dress is bold, Abigail," or "Are you sure you need seconds?" She stepped in as my role model after Mom died, but her version of guidance was just criticism with a smile. Lily was the only one who ever believed me. 3 years younger, she somehow dodged the drama queen label I got stuck with. When migraines left me curled up in the bathroom, heaving, she'd quietly bring me a glass of water and sit with me in the dark. When Dad accused me of faking to skip school, she'd defend me in her soft-spoken way, though it rarely changed anything. By the time I was 17, I'd internalized their doubts so deeply I started questioning myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was too sensitive. I stopped talking about my pain, pushing through fevers and sprains with gritted teeth. That only convinced them my earlier complaints had been lies. When I got into a university 400 miles away, it felt like breaking out of a cage. For 4 years, I lived where people took me at face value. My roommate, Sarah, never doubted me when I needed a day to recover from a migraine. My professors granted extensions without a side of suspicion. For the first time, I knew what it felt like to be trusted, to have my reality accepted. After graduation, I landed a job at a small ad agency in the city and swore I'd never move back home. I kept in touch with family through holiday calls and brief visits, always with an escape plan, building a life free from the weight of their disbelief. Then the economy tanked. My agency lost half its clients in a month, and as one of the newest hires, I was cut loose. With student loans and city rent eating through my savings, I was out of options. After 4 months of dead-end job applications, I had to face the unthinkable, moving back to my hometown. Dad offered the garage apartment rent-free until I got back on my feet. Lily, now a nurse at the county hospital, was thrilled to have me nearby. Even Aunt Margaret hinted at job leads through her social club. Swallowing my pride, I packed up my life and drove back to the place I'd fought so hard to leave. The 4th of July barbecue was a Carson family tradition. Every year, relatives, cousins, aunts, uncles piled into our backyard for grilled food and fireworks over the town square. This year, with me back home, Dad decided I should take over hosting duties, a role Mom once held and that had since bounced between female relatives. "You're living here now," he said, when I suggested Aunt Margaret keep her usual role. Time to step up. So I spent the week before scrubbing the house, planning a menu, and shopping for supplies, all while juggling job applications. The pressure to pull off a flawless event was crushing. I knew any slip-up would be chalked up to my supposed incompetence. 3 days before the party, I woke up feeling off. Despite sleeping 10 hours, I was exhausted, my body sluggish like I was wading through mud. Climbing the stairs left me winded. You're just out of shape, I told myself, echoing Dad's old taunts. I brushed off the fatigue and powered through my to-do list. That afternoon, while hauling decorations, I had to stop twice to catch my breath. A nagging ache settled in my left calf, but I figured it was just soreness from all the running around. I'd spent years training myself to ignore my body's signals, to push past pain rather than risk being called dramatic. That night, I called Sarah, my college best friend and my anchor since moving back. You sound awful, she said after I coughed through an update on my job hunt. Just tired from all this prep, I said, laughing off the tightness in my chest. Dad wants this barbecue perfect. Your dad could afford a cleaning crew, she shot back. He's just keeping you busy to make you feel like you owe him. Maybe, I admitted. But what else can I do? Just watch yourself, Abby, she said, her tone softening. You know you ignore your body when you're back there. I promised to rest, but instead, I stayed up past midnight chopping vegetables and marinating meat. By the next morning, the exhaustion had deepened. I got dizzy halfway through a shower and had to sit on the tub's edge. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs, but years of being told I was too much had rewired my instincts. By July 3, the calf pain had worsened, and sharp stabs hit my chest when I breathed deeply. I bandaged my leg, popped some painkillers, and kept going. The voice in my head urging me to see a doctor was drowned out by the louder one, Dad's voice, calling me a liar. On the morning of the 4th, I woke up feeling truly wrong. My breaths felt shallow, like my lungs couldn't fill. Getting dressed left me lightheaded. Still, I had a barbecue to host. Dad's expectations loomed large, and I wasn't about to let him down. I dragged myself through setting up tables, hanging red, white, and blue banners, and arranging chairs. Each task felt like climbing a mountain, but I blamed stress and sleeplessness. By noon, the backyard looked like a Pinterest board, but I was moving like a zombie. Lily arrived early to help, took one look at me and frowned. Abby, you look rough, you okay? Just tired, I said automatically, dodging the truth. Can you grab the cooler? As we carried it out, a searing pain shot through my chest, making me wince. What's wrong? Lily asked, her voice sharp with worry. Nothing, just tweaked something, I said, forcing a smile despite my racing heart. I flashed back to a middle school memory, waking up with a fever before a math test, begging to stay home. Dad forced me to school, accusing me of dodging the exam. I threw up in class, and even then, he scolded me for causing a scene. That day taught me my pain didn't matter. By 2 p.m., relatives started rolling in, Uncle Dan and Aunt Claire with their kids, Dad's cousin Mike and his girlfriend, Grandma Carson, sharp as ever at 87. I plastered on a smile, ignoring the growing pressure in my chest and the tingling in my hands. Aunt Margaret swept in last, scanning my decorations with a smirk. Well, you went all out, didn't you? She said, then turned to me. Good grief, Abigail, you look like death, trying to steal the spotlight again. Good to see you too, I muttered, taking her dish with hands that felt numb. Maybe put on some makeup before joining us, she added. No one wants to see a ghost at a party. By dinner, I was barely holding it together. Breathing took effort, like my lungs were half full. I poked at my food, appetite gone despite skipping breakfast. Dad noticed. After all I spent on this spread, you could at least eat, he grumbled. I nodded, forcing down a bite that felt like swallowing rocks. Lily watched me, worry etched on her face, but stayed quiet. She knew arguing with Dad in front of everyone was pointless. The family chatted around me, oblivious to my struggle. Years of being called dramatic had trained them to ignore my pain, even when it was plain as day. As dessert was served, a sharp pain stabbed my right side, making me gasp. A few heads turned, but I smiled it off and they went back to their pie. Bathroom, I mumbled, wobbling to my feet. In the downstairs bathroom, I gripped the sink and stared at my reflection. My lips were tinged blue, my skin clammy and pale. This wasn't stress. Something was seriously wrong. I splashed water on my face, trying to calm my hammering heart. The chest pain came in waves, each worse than the last. My breaths were shallow, barely enough to keep me going. Pull it together, I whispered, echoing Dad's old mantra. Stop being dramatic. But my body wasn't listening anymore. I stumbled back to the backyard, dizzy and gasping. Dad grabbed my arm as I nearly fell into my chair. You good? He asked, more irritated than concerned. Fine, I lied, the word automatic. As dessert wrapped up, Dad stood, clapping for attention. All right, folks, Lily and Abigail will clean up while we set up for fireworks out front. Lily started stacking plates, shooting me worried looks as I sat, struggling to move. "I got this," she whispered. "You look like you're gonna collapse." "No," I said, forcing myself up. "Dad will notice." In the kitchen, I loaded the dishwasher while Lily scraped leftovers. Bending down made me dizzy, the room flickering like a bad TV signal. The plates in my hands felt like lead. I tried to set them down, but my arms gave out. They crashed to the floor, shattering. The noise brought Dad storming in, face red with anger. "What the hell, Abigail? Those were your mom's plates." I tried to explain, but my lungs locked up. I pressed a hand to my chest, gasping, "I can't breathe." Dad rolled his eyes. "Stop faking it, clean this up." Aunt Margaret appeared, shaking her head. "Really, Abigail, always pulling stunts to skip chores." "She's not faking," Lily snapped, moving to my side as I leaned against the counter, wheezing. "Look at her, something's wrong." "She's always like this," Dad said, but his tone wavered as he saw my pale face. "Just needs to chill out." Uncle Dan stepped in, his expression shifting to worry. "Maybe we should call someone." "She's fine," Dad insisted, less certain now. "I can't breathe," I gasped again, my vision tunneling. My legs buckled and I slid to the floor, surrounded by broken plates. The pain was unbearable, spreading through my body. Voices argued above me, fading like a distant radio. "Enough," Lily yelled, her voice cutting through. "I'm calling 911, her lips are blue." "Don't you dare," Dad growled, but Lily was already dialing, stepping back as he reached for her phone. "You'll regret this if you're wrong," Aunt Margaret said, her voice trembling. I didn't care anymore. All I could focus on was the fight for air. The kitchen spun, and I slumped further, unable to sit up. Lily's voice, steady on the phone, was my lifeline. "My sister can't breathe. She's 25, no known heart or lung issues." Grandma Carson pushed through, kneeling beside me despite her bad knees. "Help's coming, sweetheart," she said, gripping my hand. Time blurred. Sirens wailed, and new faces appeared, paramedics, calm but urgent. A young EMT checked my pulse, his face tightening. "Get the stretcher, pulse 145, oxygen critical." The room exploded into chaos. Dad froze, his face pale. Aunt Margaret backed against the wall, hand over her mouth. Lily was crying, answering questions, while Grandma steadied her. The EMT strapped an oxygen mask on me, the air helping but not enough. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, I saw Dad's face. Fear, real fear, and the sickening realization he'd been wrong. Consciousness flickered as they wheeled me out. The ambulance was a haze of lights, beeping monitors, and urgent voices. "BP 65/35, possible PE. Call the ER." Lily was there, holding my hand, tears streaming. "Hang on, Abby," she kept saying. I wanted to respond, but breathing took everything. Time dissolved. The ambulance ride could have been minutes or days. At the hospital, I was rushed through doors, faces and voices blending. 25-year-old female, acute respiratory distress, hypotensive, the EMT reported. Lily was stopped at the ER doors, her face crumpling. "I'm right here, Abby," she called. In the ER, a doctor, Dr. Harper, leaned over, shining a light in my eyes. "Abigail, I'm Dr. Harper. We've got you." Monitors beeped, needles pierced my skin, and terms like cyanotic and tachycardic floated around. The pain and struggle to breathe didn't stop. "Chest CT stat, ultrasound her leg." "Start heparin," Dr. Harper ordered. They cut away my shirt, attached monitors, and scanned my leg with ultrasound. "DVT confirmed," someone said. The CT scanner word, confirming what they feared. "Massive pulmonary embolism." They put a new mask on me, saying they'd help me sleep to ease my breathing. Darkness took over. I don't remember the next 14 hours. Lily later told me they intubated me, pumping air into my lungs when they couldn't function. Blood thinners fought the clots that had traveled from my leg to my lungs. A catheter broke up the biggest clot, threatening my life. Dad arrived at the hospital, pacing the waiting room, silent and shaken. Aunt Margaret left early, claiming it was too much, but everyone knew she couldn't face her role in it. Uncle Dan stayed, supporting Lily, who refused to leave, sleeping in a waiting room chair. Grandma stayed too, knitting quietly, her eyes sharp with judgment toward Dad. Awareness returned slowly. The beep of monitors, the sterile hospital smell, the ache in my throat from the removed tube. I opened my eyes to see Lily asleep by my bed, still holding my hand. My breathing was easier, though my chest still hurt. Lily woke when I stirred, her face lighting up. "Abby, you're awake." My throat was too raw to speak, but she gave me water, helping me sip. "What happened?" I croaked. Blood clots in your lungs, she said, voice breaking. Pulmonary embolism. It was bad, Abby. If we'd waited any longer, she didn't finish. We both knew. A nurse checked my monitors, smiling warmly, and said the doctor would come soon. Dr. Harper arrived, calm and kind. You scared us, Abigail, she said, checking my chart. She explained. A clot in my leg, likely from sitting too much during my move and job hunt, had broken off, lodging in my lungs and blocking blood flow. Your right lung was nearly shut down, and your heart was struggling, she said. Without fast action, you wouldn't have made it. They'd used a catheter to dissolve the clots and put me on thinners for months to come. She answered my questions patiently, treating me like my pain mattered, a stark contrast to my family. The word fatal lingered. I'd nearly died while Dad called me a liar. But in that hospital bed, surrounded by people who believed me, I felt a strange peace. For the first time, my pain was real to someone other than me. I'd survived, not just the clots, but a lifetime of being unseen. And that was just the beginning of rebuilding. This experience changed everything: my relationship with my family, my trust in myself, and my determination to never let anyone dismiss my reality again. If you've ever felt unheard, I hope my story reminds you to trust your body and your truth. You're not alone.